Hey guys, it's Jamie Maclaren. I'm here on the Unlaced podcast with my man Jakey Barkadash.
Jamie Maclaren. He's here finally on the Unlaced podcast. Welcome, mate.
How are you, Jakey? All good, man?
Yeah, doing well, bro. Doing well considering we're in the 100th week of lockdown. But how are you coping with it all?
Yeah, not too bad. I think my missus has done it a bit tougher than I have. I spent a little bit of time in the isolation with Victorian restrictions, but then we went into a hub over in Sydney, and we had a bit more freedom than we did right now. And I've been home obviously a month now, and it's still nothing's really changed. So it's difficult for the people in Melbourne, that's for sure.
Yeah. Where were you based? You were just telling me, I guess before we jumped on where you were based, but you were in Newcastle when you first went into the hub, and then after that, where'd you go?
We're in the Hunter Valley, and then obviously we moved down to Sydney when it came to sort of final series. But the original sort of 3 or 4 games we were based up in, we were travelling on the day of the game, 2 hours, and travelling back up after the game. And we had some great results. So it was obviously a nice bus ride back up to the Hunter from Sydney. So quite enjoyable and a really nice hotel, to be fair.
Yeah, that's good. It would have probably brought you guys together, I can imagine, even more, living on top of each other.
You know what it's like, mate. When you're around the boys for so long, whether it's the national camps and that we used to have for young Socceroos, when you're all together, it's good. And we were together for, like we said, 8 to 9 weeks, and got some great results. And some boys have obviously moved on now, but you do learn a lot about people. Obviously, with outside of football, and it's nice to sit down and talk to a few new heads that you don't really know much about. So it was enjoyable, yeah.
Oh, good, man. Good. Now, a lot of people may not know, but me and Jamie Maclaren, we go way back. I can't even remember the first time we met, but I was thinking about it the other day, and I thought, when did we first meet and when did we first play together? I reckon it was the under-12 Victorian primary schools team.
Correct, man. That was Daryl Spiteri was the coach.
That's right.
A few recognisable faces in that squad. Jackson Irvine for obvious reasons, and big head Curtis Good.
Head shape still has not changed since he was 12.
Yeah, he's still got the same facial hair as well. So, that was some team, by the way, and obviously in that New South Wales team was Musti, Terry, and Tom Rogic was for the ACT team. So, and Josh Brillante for Queensland Country. So a few recognisable names.
Yeah, and I remember when we went to that tournament, it was in Canberra. They literally put 3 soccer pitches on a footy oval. Do you remember that?
I do remember that. And I also remember I was wearing black Tempos and playing it right back.
Yeah. I remember all that I felt I was good for in that tournament was taking corners. That's where we were at.
From memory, I'm always good with boots. I think you had the navy Vapors, was it?
You did. I did, sorry. The Vapors, they were the Mercurial Vapors, like the early ones that Ronaldinho was kind of wearing when he was at PSG and Ronaldo made famous. So you got a good memory.
Quality, man. They were good times, mate. How can you not, we won that tournament. So how can you not forget?
We did, yeah. No, mate, there's some, when I look back, they're the memories that make me realise why I played football, I guess, as a kid, why we still love it now, because we had such happy moments back then.
But it was just even thinking back to that, it was cutthroat, eh? When you go for the trials and the guy's standing there with a clipboard and fucking just reading out your names, who's cut and who's not. Like, that was ruthless at 12 years of age, huh?
It was like picking the team at lunchtime, who's the last man picked, and then all of a sudden there's 20 kids walking home with their mums and dads crying, and there's 20 kids high-fiving each other thinking, and there was probably like 15 different trials we all went through. It was like 5,000 kids. It was enormous.
And for me, driving from Sunbury down to Ferntree Gully, like, mate, that's a trek and a half. Like, it wasn't easy for the parents, that's for sure. Like, that was the hardest for them, just doing all that travel. And I think actually we took days off school, because that was during school time.
Yeah, we had some of the trials were like tournaments. You'd represent a team and play for like half a day. It probably would have been harder for you and your family, because not only were they taking days off to take you, but they were taking your brother Donnie to the trials as well. And then one of you would make it, one of you wouldn't, and then they've got the
and that was funny, because sometimes Dad would say to us, you have to wear either all white or you wear all black because you stand out. Real Madrid, all white, all black. And Donnie would wear all white and I would wear all black, and then someone would get picked or not. And they're good days, man. They're really good days when I think about it.
Oh, they were awesome.
Stress-free days. I'll give you that.
This actually was one of my things I wanted to talk about stress-free, how it's probably changed a little bit for you. And even though you're at the top of your game and enjoying your football more than ever, I think I reached out to yours a couple of weeks ago. Probably was maybe 2 weeks from the grand final. I'm like, hey, I'd love to get you on the podcast. You know, we go way back. I'd love to hear how you're doing and have a chat. And you're like, mate, I'll be on in a heartbeat, but not right now because I'm getting bombarded with media. So I just wanted to understand what that's like for you when you're going into, I guess, a serious part of the season. You're getting bombarded with media. How are you in the hub, in isolation? Do you have sort of any ways that you deal with that?
It's hard to keep a lid on it, to be fair. And sometimes the expectations of other people, you know, they're putting pressure on, you know, Melbourne City to win it. Is it their time? Are they, you know, people were saying that we've got a soft underbelly where we're the, you know, weakest mentality side when it comes to the big games. We don't show up. And that's not me. So, you know, I take it a bit personally when someone says that, you know, at big games we don't produce. And I was, to be fair, you know, not against the media, but I was a bit pissed off and to say, well, you know what, we'll prove you wrong on the pitch. And I thought we had a fantastic season. We turned it around from, you know, December onwards, and it was difficult to keep the media off our back, but results get you good headlines, and we did that. We got to a final, and obviously the journos couldn't wait to write it the day after that we had a soft underbelly. But look, I thought we were the better team in the final, and Sydney just know how to win games, don't they? So that's media in a nutshell, mate. When you're hot, you're hot, and when you're not, you're definitely not.
Did you feel you guys were written off earlier in the season, and I guess to where you guys got to the final and lost on a, you know, dodgy Ryan Buster Grant chest?
Yeah. Oh, mate, you know, at the start of the season, I thought we you know, put together a very good team, and you know, Eric coming in was fantastic. Like, I loved working for him, and you know, I will miss him. But looking at the FFA Cup final was a huge catalyst for us. We got pumped, pure and simply. We went there thinking, because we just played Adelaide 3 days before and beat them at Amy Park quite comfortably, and we rocked up to Cooper Stadium, what it's called now, and thought it was going to happen, and we got a shock, and they punished us and took every single chance that they had. They only had 4, and they took them all. And yeah, mate, it was a pure cup final, and that was the defining point for us, where we need to say that we lost on a big moment, and we need to change it. A mentality, something needs to change, and we did that gradually.
That's awesome. I think seeing where you got to in the season you had, no doubt you're a pivotal part of it, but it does take a strong coach and team mentality to flick the switch and not let moments like that defeat you, but actually turn it around and get progress in your season. It's not easy.
It's not. And, you know, when you've got a coach who's coached at the highest level and worked with some of the best players around the world, you immediately respect him. And when he's disappointed, he was actually one of the most respectful managers I've ever played for. Like, he's not like a Neil Lennon that comes in at halftime and throws boots at you. He was calm. He just said, boys, you know, you've got 45 minutes to go, and, you know, we need to get back to the way we play and get back to basics, keeping the ball. And that was refreshing to have someone like that in the A-League. And short-lived, obviously a year in charge, and he done a fantastic thing. Congratulations to him, because he won Coach of the Year, and I wasn't surprised. He deserved it. And for what he's done, it's set up PK for you know, to carry on that legacy, because it's going to be tough for PK, but also at the same time, it might be quite easy, because, you know, PK worked really close with Eric, and the game plan is what it is. And I don't think PK will change all too much.
Yeah. So for those that don't know PK, I'm assuming it's Patrick Kisnorbo, who was the assistant. And now he's taken over, which I guess is that going to be a big change, do you think? I mean, obviously a different coach and different style, but he was there throughout the whole year.
Yeah. Look, he did a lot of work. I'll put it that way. You know, Eric's English wasn't all but great. You could get the simple message across, but in full detail, it was obviously PK addressing the boys, and he's going to step up now and take the reins. And I think he's the right man for the job. He'll step in. He's Melbourne City and Melbourne heart, whatever you want to call it, through and through. And he's a Melbourne boy, so he brings a bit of pride. And you see across the league now, you got Brebs, who's coaching Victory. You've got Richie Garcia now stepping in at Perth Glory, and obviously Carl Veer at Adelaide. So there's obviously new guys coming into the role, and what better way than to see Aussie coaches getting a role. So awesome. It's nice to see, to be fair.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it's funny, right? Because you have the high being in the grand final and then losing it, and it's a sour moment. But as soon as the coach goes and a new coach gets appointed, your mindset's now on next season and how you get better. And I wanted to lead into that because this is a bit of a unique off season for you because you can't actually get away and let off the steam you probably normally would to kind of prepare. So do you feel you're having a break, a mental break at the moment from the game?
Look, Jake, if I'm honest, man, I would say no. And purely because, you're living day to day and you're kind of waiting for some good news around the corner from Melbourne. Look, it's around the world. It's not just Australia. So I'm not going to sit here and be selfish and say, we're unlucky, because there's a lot of people doing it tough and jobs are being lost and it's absolutely carnage. And you feel for those people. And it's one of those ones where I'm not going to sit and complain, but it's not a proper switch off where you can go sit by a beach and relax the body and switch the mind off. So it's been difficult, but it'll hold us in good stead to make sure we go hard, finish this season, next season off, and hopefully by June, July next season, boys are able to travel interstate or overseas to get that freshen up.
Yeah, agreed. I hope we do. I think we're on the right path in Victoria finally, and Australia more broadly seems to be doing well. So hopefully in the time frame when the league's going to start, we're going to be in a good position to have people in stadiums and playing it, the way we used to. So I guess one of the things for me, and as I said earlier in the show, I've known Jamie since I was 12 years old, and to see where you're at now, scoring goals repetitively, for Melbourne City, winning the A-League Golden Boot winner for the second time, making the Socceroos World Cup squad, playing for the Socceroos and being their sort of number 9 now, which is every kid's dream. Being with you, I can't say I'm surprised, but I do want to go back to, I guess, where we started, because I've always said if I need a goal, and your old man will like this, but if I need a goal, I'm going to call 3 people. It's going to be Cristiano Ronaldo, Lionel Messi, and Jamie Maclaren.
Don't put me in.
You always would pop up with a goal. It was ridiculous. The thing that used to frustrate me about you, and I used to love it, obviously, on your team, but when I wasn't on your team, you could be having a stinking game and something would come off your shin and you'd win 1-0 and you'd get the plaudits. So I'm thinking, you've got to be kidding
me. I'd be sliding on my knees.
Rubbing it in with your blonde tips. And
oh, fuck, those are the days. Honestly, mate, it's when I think about it, I've just had a knack. My game's been built off instinct. I had to work for it, Jakey. It's as simple as that. I didn't, I was given the basics of the game with my old man, and, it runs in the blood, football, but, I worked hard, man. I worked hard at it, and that's a simple message, but it's the truth. Yeah.
Because I want to go through a couple of what I felt were defining moments from you from afar and see if you felt the same way. Because for some of the listeners, Jamie's dad, Donnie Maclaren, was a professional footballer abroad, and also when he came to Australia, played in the old NSL. So it's safe to say Donnie knew his football inside out and had 2 twins in Jamie and Donnie, and they were always going to be footballers and have a football brain. But you played in a team here in Green Gully, which was practically undefeated for about 4 or 5 years. A half of the state team, the Victorian State team, played for Green Gully at one point, which was a tough team to play. But more, I guess, closely to what I wanted to speak about was you made the under-12 state team, which was, a tough thing in itself. And then the under-13 state team came around the next year. And I guess most of the boys who'd made the under-12 state team, there was like a little bit of cockiness of, we'll make this team. And we didn't really understand it. But I remember you got cut probably in like the last 30 players, and Donnie got through. And I remember you coming to actually the next training and watching from a side and thinking, fuck, that must be hard. Can you explain what that was like as a kid when, not making rep teams and how that feels? Because that was a bit of a defining moment for you, I felt.
It was, mate. And it was a cold night in fucking Noble Park, it was. I'm trying to remember these names. Harry Jumas was the coach. And, he didn't select me. And it's kind of one of those things back then. I was a kid that thought, mate, just check your check your lists. My fucking name has to be there, surely.
Yeah, right.
And obviously, you don't get picked, and the reality hits you. And I'm driving back to Sunbury from Noble Park, which is an hour and a half, and you're thinking, fuck, how did I not get in that team? But my old man would say to me, listen, you fucking haven't got picked. Move on. There's a reason why you haven't been. You need to now go back to the drawing board and obviously in simpler terms, but he was saying you need to change, you need to do something. That there needs to be some sort of inner hunger. Sometimes you got to go through some failures to get success, and that was a defining cut when that year hit me hard, because Jakey, I had everything given to me. You know, I was at Sunbury, I was scoring 6 or 7 goals a game. Went to Gully, you know, scoring a hat trick a game, and I felt like, you know, I was untouchable at that age. Everyone was talking about me, you know, because I was quite big at my age. I was bigger than most kids.
You were like me. We grew quicker. Yeah.
And that's right. And I kind of thought, you know, it's never going to catch up to me. And that was a knockout, you know, and going home and, you know, the next day going to school all mopey, and but it showed that I wanted it, and it actually it hit home that, you know, I need to improve, and I wasn't going to let one guy's opinion define me, because I've never been one person, even till this day. You're going to get coaches that don't rate you, but I wasn't going to allow that failure, because I knew that once you get cut, there's the following year and there's the year after. So there's still 2 more state teams to make. So those were my initial short-term goals.
Yeah, it was a bit of a wake-up call for me, because it was the first player that I saw in and around that state team that should have been there that got cut. And I'm like, okay, no one's untouchable here. It was actually the worst decision for my carnival that I went to, because I ended up having to play up front and didn't bang in a goal. I wasn't a striker because we had no one. But one of the things that, and I reckon Curtis Good would agree with me on this, because you didn't make that team. We went away. We came back to the next year's state team, and I was from the Southeast, you were from the Northwest at the time. So we were playing in different leagues. So I'd always see it at the state trials. But you came back fast as fuck. Like lightning quick, like a different player. And I want you to explain to me some of the work you were doing with your old man, because I know there was some tire sleds involved, but you just, in 12 months, your athleticism just went through the roof.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be probably a long answer, mate. And it comes back down to, so we had a big backyard, lived on 2.5 acres out in the countryside. And, you know, we had this flat area that had long grass, and me and Donnie couldn't play soccer down there. And for many years, up to about, you know, 11, 12, we never really used it. And one day, you know, Dad was thinking, after we broke a few fucking windows and smashing Mum's Pajero, you know, using the garage as a goal, right? And he had enough, and he goes, "Fuck this! I'm taking the lawnmower. I'm taking you down the back. I'm going to cut all this grass, and I'm going to give you a field where you guys can just work on your football." So one of these days, Mum and Steph were going shopping, and it's a 40-degree day. I don't know why we chose this day, and Dad's driving the lawnmower, and he hits a rock, and a spark comes through. Right, so we're shouting at Dad, going, "Mate, there's flames coming out of this lawnmower." Jesus. Anyways, long story short, the lawnmower ended up blowing up. Dad jumped off, and it felt like a movie, mate. You know, when the things go up fucking 10 meters in the air, and 2.5 acres of house, literally of our backyard, all burnt. Right, fire trucks, the lot.
You're kidding.
So a week later, the grass is starting to grow back again, and you know, Dad comes to me and Donnie, and he's like, "Boys, go have a look down the back." And we're like, "Oh, okay, no worries." We go down there, and Jakey, there's this, you've seen it, there's this brand spanking white fucking beautiful goal with a box net, by the way. We back then, with the old Pro Evolution days, we wanted the box net down the back. So he invested a lot of money in that, and not just that. We went down there and had a look, and he said, "Boys, this is a full size goal. You're growing up," but he pointed over to the trampoline, and because we used to work on free kicks, we used to use the trampoline as a wall, and he pointed over to these 2 things, and the other thing was a sled, right, with a bit of rope around it. He said, "Boys, the goal's important, but I want you to understand that to get to the next level, you need to work on basics, and basics come from, you know, doing it repetition." And the sled was just a tire, a simple fucking tire. I don't even know if it's come from one of the cars, but it was literally had a rope around it, and he would just say, "You know what, 3 times a week," he'd put a schedule for us. He'd say, 3 times a week, I want you to do 6 runs. And literally all summer, Jakey, we were down there for hours, mate. And as I was getting week by week, mate, I was adding bricks into this tire, because I felt like I was getting quicker, but I was like, you know what, I want more. And like you said, the following 6 months, within 6 months, I went from being a little boy to almost like a 15-year-old in a 13-year-old, you know, body. Yeah. And it was pure, you could say a bit of puberty and all that, but I had to grow up. And I don't know if my mind played a big part in that, because I really wanted to make these state squads the following year. And And, you know, you from the outside, it's nice to hear that you said that I came back like a beast, but I felt like that, mate. And I really took the bull by the horns and fucking just kicked on.
I don't think people that I got two responses to that, but the first one is I don't think people, and I hope people can understand, but when we were 12 to 15 playing junior soccer in Victoria, it was the holy grail to make the Victorian state team. Like literally that was do or die. Like you would go to bed thinking I need to make that. And when you made it, it was like, you were so buzzing to go to the national tournament because it was like the biggest thing. It was like playing at the World Cup, playing in the Champions League.
Yeah.
Back then.
That's what you dreamed. Yeah, it was what we dreamed of at that age.
Yeah. And so I think it's inspiring to hear how you thought about it so young because how many players did we see that probably could have made it that didn't? And then the next year they just went missing because they were gutted. And the other aspect is, I think it explains now why you banging goals for fun, because I have been to the Sunbury residence and it is so funny when you do go down the back of the hill, there's like a mini football area and there's the box nets, but I would say maybe a bit bigger, but roughly the circumference of that area was around an 18-yard box, which is why you're so clinical in the box because there was nothing else to do there. You'd be turning and shooting.
Mate, it's so true. And that's another thing is we worked on all different ranges of finishing, Jakey. And I remember Donnie was crossing balls, and it actually helped that I had a brother who had more ability than I did, where he could just pick a pass wherever he wanted to. So we would work down the back Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then come the Saturday with Green Gully. Fuck, mate, Donnie wouldn't even be looking where I am. He just knows where I am.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we kind of had that bond where, and that's what kind of, you know, why Donnie didn't kick on is because he had a lot of injuries, but had he had kicked on, mate, he'd be winning Johnny Warren medal. You know, he had that about him. He had that Ninkovic about him. He had that Castro where he could just, you know, if you were in trouble, give him the ball because he'll fucking get you out. And that was something that Donnie made me better. I didn't make him better. He made me better.
I think it's funny, right? Because I think we're old enough now to say it. You're probably too competitive at the time, but your old man used to say that Donnie was the more talented one as a kid.
He still does, Jakey.
Yeah.
Till this day, mate, he still fucking does. And I agree with him. I put my hand up and I agree with him.
He was quality. And the only thing for Wee Man, which was his injuries. The poor kid, but no, what a guy. I hope he's doing well. Shout out to Donnie. The other aspect, so as we go through these state teams, the under 14 and under 15 state teams, this is where I guess shit started getting a bit more serious because on the other side of those state teams were the Victorian Institute of Sport and the Australian Institute of Sport. And I think safe to say under 14s and under 15s, you're our top goal scorer and probably one of our top players in each tournaments. And
goalkeeper, by the way, goalkeeper.
Remember that's right. Did you save penalty?
I saved Terry Antonis and Corey Gamero's penalty.
That's right. Alistair Bray. We won't say how he got himself out of the tournament from.
Oh, mate, I've got an answer for you down the podcast. Yeah, keep going.
Jesus Christ. Anyway, but no, this was the second defining moment I thought for you, and it's not to paint a picture of some of the challenging periods, but I think it's pretty much what I'm trying to highlight here is that where you are right now, it wasn't gifted to you, even though you were talented. Like you went through some shit. And one of the biggest ones was not making the AIS. From a tournament where you probably played better than most and deserved to get picked, I think only about 10 or 11 players from the tournament that was held in Coffs Harbour at the time made the AIS squad. Can you explain what that was like for you when you saw myself, Curtis and Erson go, who potentially we didn't have as good of tournaments to you, but we got selected and you didn't?
You know what, man? That was hard too. So that was my second probably knockout. I remember Paul Foster, I think his name was, and he sat down with us at Darebin, and I remember him speaking to all of us and saying, boys, you know, when you go to Coffs Harbour, there's going to be scouts there, and obviously the next step from the Vic team is AIS, and you boys are young men, and this is just a brief outline. And he showed us a presentation, and I remember thinking back, going, "Fuck, this would be awesome." AIS, I would love it. I've seen Socceroos kick on, and that was the pathway. That was what you wanted to do, and So for me, I went to Coffs Harbour and scored 3 goals in 3 games, and then got injured. So I was on crutches for the last 2 games, and didn't play, and that didn't help. But I still felt as if what I'd done, I still was top scorer for Victoria, and came off, and I didn't think I warranted selection, but apparently I was nowhere near it. Apparently the conversation I had with John Campbell, he said, mate, I don't even know if you were on their radar. And that was another thing that kind of stood out to me is, I was buzzing for you guys because it was like, it's a life-changing moment as a young boy leaving. But I was like, fuck, I believe I should be with them. But it is what it is. And then I had a phone call from Ian Greener, and he said, look, Jamie, I've obviously heard out the news that you're not going to the AIS, and we are the VIS. Would you be interested? And that was the next best thing, if you want to call it, and the sort of closest thing to full-time football. And I thought about it, and my dad was like, you know what, you do need to get out of Green Gully, because scoring a hat-trick every game, and we won the league. We were undefeated that season, under 15s, and it was a case of you needed to step up. And I needed to play with the elite of the Southeast boys and boys from Mornington and Nick Ansell, guys like that, and Luke O'Day, and just to name a few boys that maybe these podcast listeners might hear. Christopher Cristaldo played for Melbourne, Heart and Victory, actually. So boys that have been around the traps. And so I wanted to make that step up and go to the VIS and prove that the AIS fucking should regret not picking me.
I think it's safe to say they do, and you did that. Because even for me, I was a little bit shocked at my selection at the AIS. I never felt like on ability in the year I had leading up to it that I didn't deserve to be there. I definitely felt I deserved to. But based off the tournament, I couldn't hang my hat on and say I was in the top 10 players at the tournament. I don't think as a team, Victoria, we really underperformed when you got injured. Because we didn't have a goal scorer.
Look, I wouldn't say it just on me, but I think we had such a good team that we were almost that.
We thought we were going to win it.
Yeah, you're right. We were complacent. And because the previous year we'd done so well, and majority of the boys stayed the same, and John was the coach for the second year also, and you kind of think it's just going to happen, and when you're at that level, one chance and you're out, and that's what happens in those levels where one chance in front of goal and someone takes it and you lose the game, and you get sent home packing from Coffs Harbour, and that was us.
Yeah, from Tasmania, but I know I like that. Anyway, but this was back then. So to give context to the listeners, the AIS was, talk about the state team being the Holy Grail, but when you got about 15, 16, the only way to be in, I guess, the elite development path of football in this country was to be a part of the AIS. So if you were really serious about your football and you weren't in the AIS, it was unlikely at that time that you were either going to be unique and create your own path in the country, or you'd probably go overseas. And that kind of is, for you, was the next phase, wasn't it? To move overseas and start playing some football over there. Can you give us some insight into that decision and where you ended up?
Well, straight after that, Coffs Harbour obviously went back and had to just understand what was going on and realize and process it, because it took all summer to process it, because Coffs Harbour was obviously September time, and it was spent all summer obviously down the back and still working on things, because I thought, fuck, what didn't they see? And then I made a decision obviously in January to join VIS, but I did sit down with my dad and we kind of said, he kind of asked me, what do you want out of the game? And I remember sitting there going, you know what, now that I've been fucking, not being selected by the AIS, I don't want my dream to be over. So there was murmurs about Victory Youth starting to have their Victory Youth team, because at the time there didn't have the funding for it.
Yeah.
So it was either try and wait 9 months for that Victory Youth period to come in, or do you want to go on trial? Do you want to have 1 year at VIS, and August, straight after your last game for VIS, in the under 21 VPL it was called, and then head on trial. And I wanted to go to Celtic and Aston Villa, being a mad Villa fan. Those two were lined up, and potentially Derby County. But after the season I had with the VIS, it was I won the Scott McDonald Award, which is funny. Me and Scotty Mac joke about it now, but that was the top scorer in the VPL under 21 league. And so once I got that, then Toby Patterson said, Brodie Patterson's old man, he said, look, I've got a contact at Blackburn. Would Jamie be keen? Because I think he's ready. And to hear that from an outsider, we knew Toby quite well, but for him to say that to my old man, it made me feel like, I'm going to go there and I'm not coming back. So those 4 clubs were arranged, and I went on trial at Blackburn first. Yeah.
So as you said back then, Toby, shout out Toby Patterson, the great man. But hearing something like that, we didn't hear that in Victoria. Oh, you're ready to go to a Premier League academy. But going over there, you had a really successful stint in the sense that I think you had a couple of trial games there, and you banged a couple of goals in against Man U and someone else, and they signed you up straight away, didn't they?
Well, that was it. We originally booked obviously a return home because that's what you do. You don't really know what's going to happen. But so I rocked up to Blackburn on trial, and so that obviously Toby Patterson knew Grant Hanley, obviously from Dumfries in Scotland, and so he's now obviously playing in the Premier League and played 50 games for Scotland, and he was taking me down to and from the academy to the digs and introduced me to all the lads. And so I had my first game was against Derby County away, so we caught a 2-hour bus, and it didn't start that day, but we were losing 1-0, came on, and we ended up winning 3-1, and I scored 2. So
Beautiful.
Obviously on the bus home, you're thinking contracts ready. So anyways, get back to the club, and the academy manager pulls me in and goes, "Mate, pretty impressive, but that was Derby. We've got Man United this week, under 16s. I want to see a bit more." So I said, "Okay." He goes, "You're gonna play from the start." So I said, "Beautiful." I love knowing when I'm starting and when I'm not. So prepared properly. Couldn't wait, and went out there and scored a hat-trick. And my mum was watching, and my uncle Ross was watching too. And coming off that pitch, you have that inner gut feeling where you just think, "Oh, I've done everything I could," and I'm so buzzing. I wasn't even thinking about the contract, but I'm sitting here, a kid from Melbourne, right? I couldn't even get in the AIS, but I'm fucking scoring a hat-trick against Man United's under 16s. And at the time, Man United's first team was flooded with Rooney, Giggs. You could name Vidic, Ferdinand. These were the boys that were playing 11, 12 years ago.
Yeah.
So for me, it was like I'm playing against their juniors. So I was wrapped, and they pulled me in the office and straight away and sat down with me and my mum, and they said, "Look, this is a contract. We're gonna offer you something, but we know you've got Villa and Derby and Celtic to come. If you were to walk out this door and go on trial with them, our offer's off the table." And that was difficult to understand, because I was like, fucking hell, I was thinking, I love Villa, man. Like, I want to go see Agbon Hall. I want to go meet Ashley Young, like I was like, but at that time I called Dad straight away. I said, look, to the academy manager in Phil, and I said, can I please just speak to my dad? Just want to hear it from him. And my dad said, look, in football, you're never guaranteed anything, but right now you've got something guaranteed. So sign it. And it was, it was a YTS moving into a pro, because I was a minor, and couldn't be prouder. And it was a nice feeling to join that academy, because there was some top players made at that time. And Blackburn was sitting 6th or 7th in the Premier League at that time, with Sam Allardyce as gaffer. So yeah, because I remember, but it's actually funny, when we used to play PlayStation as a kid, I remember I always used to go Man U or Real Madrid, and you used to always go Villa. And I'm thinking, fuck's he doing? I'm gonna belt him, but you'd always put up a fight. I remember we went we played online against the Jegos. Do you remember that at my house? Oh yeah.
Jimmy and Luke, they're still burning from that loss. But no, Blackburn at the time, they had a really strong academy, because they needed to invest in their youth, and that was definitely a feeder club. They had so many players have come out of the Blackburn academy. But as you spent a couple years there, I wanted to move on to, I guess, you had a really successful academy stint and played in their youth team and the reserves, and were on the cusp of getting some first team football, but you made the decision to come back to the A-League, where you felt you were going to get a bigger and better opportunity, which was with Perth. So, I mean, I don't even know, what year was that when you came back now? It was 2013?
2013, yeah.
Yeah.
2013.
So what was that like, your first taste of senior football? And I guess the league back then, because I was playing in the A-League then, was, and I don't know what it's like now, but the league back then was in pretty good shape. From the imports we had in the league was, second to none. There was players like Fowler, Shinji Ono, Alessandro Del Piero. Can't remember, Liam Miller was like a top player, Marcelo Cruz. There was a lot. Can you explain to us what your first experience of first team football was like in the A-League back then?
Yeah, you know what? I got a decent little shock, because I scored in the Under-20 World Cup against Turkey, and we got knocked out. And at that time, I was a free agent, having left Blackburn. And Alistair Edwards, who I credit till this day, was fantastic for me, because he put a lot of faith into myself and said, well, I'm going to give you a 3-year contract at Perth Glory. And I remember going to watch Perth in the old NSL, even flying to Perth, with seeing family friends, and obviously the Damien Murray days and all that. And going there, it was difficult because you got old guys like Stephen McGarry, Jacob Burns, who have been around, played in the SPL, and Burns, he played for Leeds, and you got big characters who they expect a lot from you, mate. They ain't gonna let you allow to have this transitional period from being a kid to a man. You have to start throwing your weight around, and I felt like that was a turning point for me because it was difficult. I couldn't adjust. It took me 4 to 5 months to really adjust to the crowds, the media side of it, just the pressure. And because at the time you didn't really feel pressure, but right now I'm playing in front of 13,000 people who, if I miss a chance in front of goal, mate, I'm copping it.
Yeah,
and that was new to me. And it was one game stood out to me it was before the game. William Gallas, right? So I played with William.
He was there.
So there's a good photo, there's a good video of him explaining to me just to be calm. So I feel like he was talking to like Nicholas Anelka or something, the way he was talking to me, but he was just saying, just be calm in front of goal. Don't be stressed. This is all noise. It's all noise. So, and that was kind of one I look back on and go that he was the sort of guy who's done everything in the game, and he doesn't feel that. So why should I? I've done nothing in the game. So, so I kind of leaned on him a little bit, and obviously the older guys like Scott Jamison, who now is obviously my captain. But I had a really good bunch of boys around me. Thwaitie was a established Socceroo, and Lubo Milicevic, another guy who played in Europe, and Danny Vukovic. I could name a few. That team I had was unbelievable.
Perth had a great team.
Those were the guys that I leaned on in the difficult moments when I was trying to adjust to being a regular. And when I was a regular, well, I wasn't a regular, but I was playing off the bench under Kenny. But I ended up getting 9 or 10 goals in that season as a bench player, and that made me stronger.
Yeah, I remember playing Perth. It was always really tough playing Perth as well because there was always 1 or 2 young players, and you were one of them that would complement like a super experienced team. I always feel like Perth have had such an experienced and strong team.
Yeah.
Everyone's at that point in their career where they know how to win and they know the job they have to do to win. And it's funny, I got a William Gallas story. I remember we played Perth. I think I was at Adelaide, and it was so hot. And this vintage in Perth, you'd always end up having those halftime breaks in the half to have a drink, like a drinks break every 20 or 25
break.
minutes.
Yeah.
And I remember Gallas came on. It was one of his first games at Perth. He played like 20 minutes. He did an interview with Fox Sports after, and he couldn't even get words out because it was so hot. Yeah. But I saw him out that night. We went out for a few drinks that night, or maybe a few more than a few.
Oh, was it?
Were you?
That's the night when I picked all your Adelaide boys up. Do you remember you got in the back of my car?
Probably, yeah.
Sanchez.
It might have been, yeah. Anyway, I don't know what hour it was, but we saw William Gallas walking down the street past us, and I'm thinking, holy shit, this is William Gallas. Like, I played against him just before, but I didn't care. I'm like, he's the Arsenal captain, Chelsea legend, France national team. And he's eating this massive plain Smith's chips packet. His arm is literally, his whole arm's in the packet getting the crumbs out. And he's got a Magnum. He's opening up a Magnum. And I'm thinking he's on holiday. He's having a ball. But he was telling us, and I won't do his accent, but he pretty much said, he goes, man, I've never seen anything like this before, but I just see 2 women fighting, massive cat fight over there. And then he just kept walking with his Magnum. I'm like, dude, what is going on?
Right. He was a great guy, man.
Yeah. But then, because I think that really probably kickstarted your career, that opportunity. But I think where you probably really felt like I can dominate and be the player that I am now and take it even further was when you made the move across to the East Coast to Brisbane, which, as I stated earlier, you've won a couple of A-League Golden Boots, which for those that don't know is the top scorer of the A-League. And you won your first there in Brisbane in the 2016, I think 17 season. Was that a real sort of defining moment in your pro career of like, this is where I belong and this is what I can do now?
Yeah, spot on, man. And the word belong was ring true because I remember going into training at, under Aloisi, and every day he would be onto me saying, look, Macca, let's do some extras. And the first conversation we ever had, he said to me, tell me how many goals you're going to score this year. And I think I said 10, right? And he looked at me and said, 10? No. You're going to score more than that. And that was what stuck with me is this coach believes more than I do. So I then instilled some belief that, you know what, this guy believes me because let's be honest, Kenny Lowe didn't believe in me. So I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat anything. John Aloisi believed in me. So I'm thinking, fuck, I've got a gaffer here who loves me. He's going to play me. He's handed me the number 9 jersey, which for everyone listening when you get given that jersey, you have to earn that. And that was something where I now have pressure where I was at Perth. This is pressure. This is Besart Berisha has just left Brisbane with championships and 15 or so goals a season, consistent every year. Mate, if you flop here, you're going to be fucking hounded. And that was something that drove me. Something inside of me, Jakey, just came out, and I was instantly changed by, my mentality with John and working with him day in, day out. And he tweaked a few things, and he was able to help me get into moments. And day before the game, he gave me free rein. He said, mate, you want 10 minutes or you want half an hour in front of goal? Go for it. So that was huge.
How many years did you have under JA up there? Was it a couple of seasons you played at Brisbane?
Yeah.
2 seasons?
2 full seasons, yeah. 2 full seasons. And one thing I would credit is the team we had there was phenomenal. We came third twice. We're a couple games short of each grand final. But I stayed fit for 2 years straight. I ended up playing 53 A-League games. And you know what it's like. A-League game seasons are short enough as it is to play, full 25 games a season. It was great for me. And Suncorp Stadium, I loved it, mate. We used to have some serious crowds, and it's not like that now. And I want it to get back, because that stadium for me is one of my favourites.
Oh, it's awesome. It's a stadium like no other. You feel like you're playing in Europe when that's filled. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah,
the atmosphere, and there's so much history, as you said. The Brisbane team, they won the three-peat up there with an invincible team. So it's kind of got that. It had that fortress element to it.
Oh, it had the aura. It had the aura for sure.
Yeah. So after that kind of breakout season, I felt like that was a defining moment for you, because you were kind of at the top of the league from a goal scoring perspective, and you've maintained that, but you decided to make the move overseas.
Yeah.
So how did that come about? And I guess what was the journey like whilst living over there in another country, playing football at the highest level?
You know what? And we probably played with Torsten Frings on PlayStation. So he called me. I was sitting in Crown Casino with Thomas Broish, and Thomas passes the phone to me and says, "This is Torsten Frings." And I'm sitting there going, "Yeah, whatever, man. Fuck, he had a few beers." I'm like, piss off. Like, this is not Torsten Frings. I knew exactly who he was, right? He's the German Frank Lampard, right? And anyways, he ended up speaking to him, and he says, "Jamie, I know you're a free agent. We've just been relegated from the Bundesliga, but we're investing so much money. We want to come back up. And I believe you're the sort of player that we could do with." And I was like, sounds good. I said, "Look, send through the contract. Here's the agent and whatever." And Paddy being my agent. And basically they flew us over straight away, business class, the lot, you name it. This was something new to me. I was like, I just obviously played for the Socceroos. So I was kind of like, this will be a good step for me. Mm. Get there, sign the contract, and was happy with everything. And basically went to the Confederations Cup with Socceroos, and that was quality, seeing Sanchez and guys like that in the flesh. And so I went to Germany quite late, Jakey, a couple of weeks later, pre-season. First friendly I get there, right? You know what it's like when you go into a dressing room and the board's up of the team.
Yeah.
So he gave me the number 9 jersey, mind you. I'm looking at the board. I'm thinking, fuck, where's my name? No, I'm not there. He goes, "Yeah, you are." I go, "Where?" I was playing number 8, right? So I'm about to go. Jakey, I'm about to go out, right? And play. That's
centre midfield for those that don't know. It's in the middle of the park.
I'm about to go, right, to play in a position which my gaffer knows full well, because that was what he used to be, in a pre-season friendly against an Austrian team. And my number 6, who's going to give me the ball all day, is Hamid Altintop, who's played for Real Madrid and Bayern Munich. Mate, he kept getting the ball, and he kept looking for me, but I was making forward runs. I was fucking... And then at half-time, he said to me, he goes, "Jamie, what's wrong? You barely touched the ball." I said, "Coach, I'm a fucking striker. I'm lost. I'm literally lost out there. I don't know." And he's like, No, I thought we can get you to play there." I said, "Mate, well, pre-season's nearly over and the season's, around the corner. I'm a striker, whether you like it or not. I don't know what videos you've been watching, but I ain't a fucking number 8.
Oh, no chance."
So that was difficult, man. And on top of that, think of the language barrier, and in a different country. I was away from Eva. She was still in Australia, sorting some loose ends. And don't get me wrong, I love Germany. It was fantastic. We lived in Frankfurt. It was fantastic. But the football side of it, the boys were top notch in terms of quality on the pitch. Like, Jakey, the ball was zipping fucking phenomenally, And Kevin Grosskreutz, who won the World Cup with Germany, he was in our team as well. So some big names, right? And I'm just thinking, I wish I could play in my position with these guys because I know I would do some damage. But we went 10 games straight. I kept playing as this number 8. 7 games went by. I think I had 1 shot because I was so fucking far away from the goal that it was unbelievable. And Torsten got sacked, mate. And it was unfortunate because I love the guy, but as a coach, I just felt like he was just frazzled. Like he didn't know how to make certain decisions. And, if there's a game, we're 1-0 down in the 80th minute. I'm a striker. Just say, Jamie, can you just push up forward and play 2 up front? But we didn't do that. And that ultimately cost him his job. And he's the coach now of FSV Meppen, which is the 3rd division team in Germany. But he's the way he is, his trajectory could have been a lot different, mate. And the team we had could have got promoted. And once I knew after 7 games playing number 8, Jakey, and it wasn't me, it was time to knock on the door on January transfer window because, the World Cup was 6 months away and I wanted nothing more.
That's crazy. I felt like I could have probably given Torsten a call and told him, mate, don't put him at number 8. You'll be wasting your time. Get him up front. But it's quite funny.
Mate, your average troll could fucking tell Torsten.
I know, mate.
People complain enough I don't touch the ball fucking during the game, but they're not saying anything when I'm scoring in the 90th minute.
Exactly right. That's the way you like it as well. But it's funny how great players don't always make great coaches. And that's potentially not saying he is, but that's an example that's definitely common in football. So after that period, because that was probably not a disappointing spot, I would say that was a real learning curve for you. Experience. It was, yeah.
You know what? Yeah. I wouldn't actually call it disappointing. I would actually call it just an experience. Like I was able to learn a bit of German. I was able to live in Germany, play in a fantastic league. 25,000 fans every week. It was unreal. I was able to work under a guy who's been in the World Cup final. Like these are the things that you play with guys you played in Real Madrid with Zidane and Ronaldo, and this is things that you can't, buy with money. So for me, I'm not going to sit here and regret moving to Germany. No chance. It was just happened to be that the coach wanted to play me in a different position. So I had to swallow it and move on. So I look back and I enjoyed it as much as it was difficult.
No doubt it would have been a growth experience. And even players or coaches that have played with top players or in top tournaments like the World Cup or the Champions League, usually when they speak, regardless of what they say, you're going to listen because they've been there and done it. And he probably had that effect as well. But after that period, you went back home. I'm not sure if you went on loan or you got sold to Hibs. But you went to the beautiful city of Edinburgh, which I'm sure your old man was proud of, and back to Scotland and played for Hibernian.
Yeah.
Which, for those that know Jamie's story, know that he had an electric period, in the green and white. So can you explain for us going back home to Scotland, the native land for your old man?
Yeah. So it was actually an interesting period because so in Germany you have a winter break. So for that winter break, me and Eva thought, you know what, it was £12 to fly from Frankfurt to Edinburgh. So we said, you know what, let's go to Edinburgh. We love the city. We've got family there. And so we went there, right? So we landed in Edinburgh, had some family pick us up. And after 2 days, I get a phone call saying Craig Levine would like to meet you, the Hearts manager. So I'm thinking, well, okay. So I knew Hearts and Hibs were interested before I signed in Germany. So that free agency period, I had quite a bit of interest from Scottish clubs and some British clubs, which was nice. But so anyways, they've found out that you're available because the German media is saying that you want to go on loan. So I ended up having a coffee with Craig Levine in his office, and he's sitting there showing me fucking projector of all my goals in Brisbane and saying, this is what I need. I want big and small. I want you and Cole Lafferty. It's something that we could really do. And, can we fit you in the budget and all that sort of stuff? And, he was really thorough, and he knew his stuff. He was a gentleman, honestly, a proper gentleman. So we left that training ground, Hearts training ground, and went back home and to my family's house. And the next morning we were going to the Edinburgh Castle. Anyways, I fucking pick up the Daily Scottish Sun, and on one of the pages says Hearts are going to sign me. And I'm thinking, it's the first I've heard of this. So honestly, mate, I found out that in Scotland, mate, there is snakes everywhere. There's fucking the media travel. If someone has a coffee, that they'll fucking write about someone had a coffee. So for me, it was a nice feeling, and I was like, this is the first time I've got my granddad calling me. Fucking, he's a mad Jambo. He's going, Jamie, you better sign for them because they're the fucking best team. And I'm thinking, mate, there's nothing on paper, Granddad. What are you talking about? Like, I'm going back to Germany tomorrow. I'm only here for 3 days. Like, relax. So we went back to Germany, and me and Eva went to Rome. That's where we got engaged. And so when I was in Rome, there was some conversations with my agent, and because that media had got that out, Hibs now came on board, and Hibs needed a striker. So then I went and met with the Hibs officials, and basically they said, we want someone to play up front with Anthony Stokes. And, I'm thinking, okay, so I've got Kyle Lafferty, I've got Anthony Stokes. These two are unbelievable Scottish. Well, they're both obviously Irish in their own right, but they're both done the business in Scotland, and how good to play with these quality players. So the decision was to go to Hibs. Purely, it just felt right, Jakey. They were both on the table, and it honestly just felt right to go to Hibs. And I met up with Lennon and the boys in Portugal on a sort of mid pre-season trip, and from then onwards, mate, it was a great time. And like I said, there's some fantastic boys, and I could rattle on what we did that year, and it was what a time, mate! What a time.
Yeah, it's people don't know that the football in Scotland is so big. I mean, it's like the Premier League in England. It's so televised and it's so scrutinised, and the rivalry between Hibs and Hearts in the city of Edinburgh is, it's not something you want to get cut in between.
Well, mate, put it this way. I'll give you an example, right? So me and Eva, we went to a pub in George Street, and right in the heart of town. So I've gone to the bartender. Excuse me, can I get a glass of red and a Peroni? He turns around and goes, mate, go fuck yourself. And turned around, right? His other bartender turns around and goes, mate, don't worry about him. He's a mad Hearts fan. Don't take it personally. I said, how the fuck am I going to take that personally? Anyways, the other guy ended up sorting me out. But this guy, that just shows you, from a guy who's actually getting paid to do his job, wouldn't even fucking serve me, let alone the guy who's walking down the street. So it was passionate as, and I loved it. I loved it, mate. Even going to Rangers, I've got videos of, the Rangers fans launching some coins and bottles at me when I scored at Ibrox. It was, that's the shit that I miss, and that's the shit that I love. Yeah,
that would really rile you up. I'd say you're the type that would make you want to play more. That's not going to send you the other way. That's going to excite you even further. I've actually got a bit of a Hibs story. I went on trial there probably a year before maybe you went, and I had a really bad experience. I ended up doing my knee there. I think Alan Stubbs was the coach. But I got a funny story. I don't know. Did you play with Scotty Allen? Was he at Hibs, or had he left by then?
Did I ever? Me and him scored we scored in an Edinburgh Derby night one night. We won 2-0, and mate, what a player. What a player.
Top player, right? There was a guy, Scotty Allen, when I was at Hibs, and there was when I was on trial there, on the back paper, it was like Scotty Allen, the next Scott Brown, or like the future of Scottish football, and all this pressure that Celtics after him, Rangers after him. And I'm thinking, who is this guy? I'm about to go on trial to his club. Went there, and he was just one of those players that he kind of came across like he didn't really give a shit. But on the day and when the moment would happen, he just had magic about him. And I remember he kept calling me Skippy the Kangaroo, but I remember I walked into the change room, and the steam was just coming into the change room. I couldn't see him. What's going on here? And I walk into there's like a bath and shower area.
Yeah.
And I just see Scotty Allen sitting in the hottest bath, which is surely not recommended by sports scientists. The hottest bath, just smoking a vape. and the air is just covered in smoke. He's going, all right, Aussie. And I'm thinking, geez, this is the future of Scottish football. But that sums him up probably. Yeah.
What a guy. Honestly, mate, he was a player that gave me a lot of goals in that period. And like you said, he had that aura about him where he just had that swagger. You just fucking give him the ball in the pocket, he'll turn and he'll create something. And it's sort of, it's one of those ones where I always imagine, what would he be like in the A-League? Would he, because I think he would light it up. People would be thinking, he's playing at Hibs. But I think if Martin Boyle came to the A-League, he would light it up as well. So
yeah, I agree.
People's perception of the Scottish League needs to change, because that league, the top 5 teams are phenomenal, mate. Without a doubt that they would win the A-League, or they would come close.
Yeah.
So people want to say, how do you compare it? Well, you can't compare it because of winter and all that sort of stuff. But the team that I had at that time, that we went unbeaten, we beat Celtic, we beat Rangers twice. That team would win this A-League, if I was to be honest. Yeah. That starting 11. So
that's how good.
And you got boys. It comes down to hunger too, Jakey. You know what it's like. They fucking hate losing, mate.
Yeah.
you know, and almost after games, if you draw away at Aberdeen, you have to apologise to your away fans. Now, I was like, it was new to me because I was thinking in the A-League, fucking, you'll be taking a selfie with the other guy. But in Scotland, if I thought about taking a selfie with a Hibs fan after getting a draw away at Aberdeen, mate, the guy would fucking want to punch me out. So it was different, but it was also at the same time as these guys. And this is another thing I wanted to touch on is these guys live for the weekend. Like, fuck Monday to Friday. They don't care about that. If they're working in a factory, or if they're having banter with their mates during the week saying, oh, fucking Hibs are going to beat Hearts this week, they live for that Saturday afternoon. If you can't get in the stadium, you're the unhappiest man in that city. And that's what Australia doesn't have at the moment is if there's a Melbourne derby, a 30,000-seat stadium, there's probably 22,000 there, but there's still 8,000 people that can get in. Where in Scotland, mate, there's 30,000 full and there's about 5,000 sitting at the front waiting to fucking celebrate. You know what I mean? And that's and that's what I'm trying to say. That's what I'm trying to say. That's what I miss about rocking up to a stadium on game day. You got fans banging the bus. Like, that doesn't happen here. And it's hard to breed that culture. But if only Australia had it, it would honestly, mate, it would change football in this country forever and the way people see it. Because another thing I'll touch on, and I'm probably just rambling now, but so I went to school, right, in Sunbury, and all you people know that if you look up in Google, Sunbury's fucking far away from Melbourne, right? So I went to school with these Aussies, right? Me and my brother, we were classed as wog ball, right? They would call us wog boys, right? Mum's half Maltese. So we'd have a ball under our arm and we'd go to school, and these guys would laugh at us saying, oh, no one plays soccer. It's a shit sport, play AFL and whatnot. And I log onto my Facebook when I'm at the World Cup with the Socceroos about 2 years ago. The same guy that was taking the piss out of me was fucking wearing a Maclaren jersey sitting in Russia at the World Cup. So I'm thinking, you cheeky fucker, mate. You were taking the piss out of me for 10 years, but now you're sitting in Russia, you're supporting Australian Socceroos. How does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, that just shows that there is people out there who can get involved. It's just, we're a bit lazy in this country, and too many things have been given. You can watch every game in the A-League on TV. So why would people leave if they've got a barbecue? And, you know, it's one of those ones where don't put it on TV. I know you need the TV revenue, but if you only had one game, then you'll get fans that just want to go to the stadium. And that's something that I would love to change, because you can't watch every Premier League game on TV.
You have to go to the ground. You have to go to the ground or watch it at the pub. Yeah, and it's right. It's not televised everywhere. And there was a thing on that this year that everyone's like, oh, every Premier League game's televised in round one. It's like, shouldn't it always be? But that's not the case. Was it a hard decision for you? Because I know there was a period where you were representing Scotland at the national level, and you're getting calls from the young Socceroos and the Socceroos to be like, Jamie, come back home. Was that a hard decision at the senior level to decide who you wanted to play for?
So basically, it was nice to represent Scotland. It was a proud moment for me, but I think it was more prouder for my old man. You know, someone that's come from Sunbury, you know, Victoria, to then go in to play for Scotland. I actually got called up when I was at the Blackburn Academy to Scotland under 19s, played 2 games against Norway and Denmark, and that was pretty cool. But mate, I had no fucking idea what the lyrics were for The Flower of Scotland, and it just didn't feel right. And for me, I got a phone call. I remember I was sitting in my digs in Blackburn, and it was Jan Verslaen called me, and Han Berger, and they were saying, look, Jamie, I know you've represented Scotland last week, but you need to play for Australia. If you don't pick us now, then we won't pick you in the coming camps. So I thought it was fucking cheeky. I was like, mate, you guys fucking, one, you binned me for AIS, but now you guys are fucking saying to me, you need to choose Australia. I was pissed off, right? So, but then I remember going to the training the next day and speaking to Vince and Brett and saying, boys, like, because they were taking piss out of me. They were saying, mate, why are you picking Scotland? Like, they'll never go to a World Cup.
Yeah.
And they were right, you know, and it was like, and they kind of talked me into, you know, mate, you'll be so proud putting on the green and gold. And it took me back, because it was a dream of mine, Jakey. When I was in my backyard shooting goals, I always thought, fuck, I want to play for Australia. Yeah. So called them back and said, look, guys, it was a hard conversation to call Billy Stark at Scotland to say, look, Billy, I appreciate everything, but I've got to move on, and I've got to play for my country of birth. And I want to thank you so much, because it was massive. And to say goodbye to Scotland and choose Australia was a good thing. But then, so the Socceroos, the conversation comes about, and Malta, right? So I'm on 15 goals in the A-League, and John Aloisi pulls me and goes, Jamie, we've had an email at the club. Malta want to call you up for a game against Germany and Lithuania. Oh. And I was thinking, are you bantering? Because he used to work with Michael Mifsud, so I thought he was bantering me, right? And I said, yeah, whatever, Johnny. He goes, Jamie, I'm being deadly serious. Malta want to call you up. What do you want to do? And so I laughed. I was like, well, I want to play for Australia, clearly. And so he just said, look, we'll say no to Malta because I'll let you in on a little secret, Jamie. You know, Ange, if you keep going the way you're going, Ange is going to pick you. Now, we all know, me and you know the story about the 14-year-old Jamie Maclaren and Ange Postecoglou when I was fucking...
I'll never forget it.
You know, so it was kind of like, I was like, fuck, Ange probably hates me. He probably hates my guts.
He was gunning for you one day, wasn't he?
He probably thinks I'm a smart ass, I'm this, I'm that. And, you know, I don't know if he does till this day, but, you know, I have to be very grateful for the opportunity he gave me to represent my country against England. And, you know, to have obviously Smalling's jersey here in this room. And Wayne, I was right in line behind Wayne Rooney when he took a touch and buried it in the top corner past Matty Ryan. So even standing there, that gave me goosebumps. And that was like, this is proper football. You know, it doesn't get higher than this. And to have that debut is something that I'll always be eternally grateful to Ange with. And, you know, it does, you always kind of think, does he think the same way? You don't know. But it was definitely an interesting story that's not for this podcast. But if someone wants to ask me privately, then I might open up. But
I'll be sure to ask you over our next dinner. That's for sure. No, but it's crazy, right? Because we talk about this earlier in your career where you're not struggling, but you didn't make a state team. You missed out on the AIS. Your dad's lighting up the backyard trying to make you a soccer field and put some soccer goals in. And we fast-tracked 15 years and you're wearing the number 9 shirt playing for the Socceroos, which was all our dreams as kids. I mean, being like Mark Viduka, Harry Kewell in that era, everyone in our generation wanted to be him. And it's humbling for me as your mate and someone who played with you to see you there now, because I'm like, holy shit, one of the boys made it. And I guess now you've had quite a few caps for the Socceroos and you're starting to bang in some goals. But is there a particular moment in your international career that stands out as something you'll be forever proud of?
I think obviously getting selected for the Socceroos, and my story is quite unique in the sense that I was fucking binned. I was dead, and it was like the Undertaker, mate. I didn't get selected. I then went and scored a hat-trick against Rangers. And then I got a phone call when I was in Dubai, sitting on a beach, saying, "Mate, you've got to come to Turkey because Bert Van Marwijk, he wants to have a look at you." Mind you, I've probably put on fucking 5 kilos. I've had 20 bottles of red wine. Like I was not in the best shape. But I said, you know what, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. So I flew from Dubai to Turkey, and he spoke to me, and he just said one word. He said one sentence, and he was like, "You know, Jamie, you have 1 week. You have to impress me." And that was a simple. Mark Van Bommel was stood next to him, and that's all they said. And I had a week to impress him, and maybe I showed him something different that the Socceroos didn't have at the time. But he selected me, and that's something that stands out. But
and another thing, for the World Cup, was that for the?
This was for the Russia 2018 World Cup, right? And
wow,
I remember being in tears in Lenny's office, and he was scratching his head. He was like, what the fuck? Like, you know, and knowing Neil how he is, he was thinking, nah, that can't be, you need to prove them wrong. And he was always like that. He was saying, nah, fuck that. You know what? When Rangers comes around, when we play Rangers on Sunday, you're going to make sure that you're going to get to a World Cup. Forget about what's written in paper. It's never true. So he kind of drove me to a new level for that Sunday. But if there's another moment that sticks out, Jakey, is my hat-trick for the Socceroos. And, you know, I'm going to say it's against Nepal, which I'm just going to act like it was against fucking Brazil. But at the end of the day, mate, it's a hat-trick. It's a hat-trick. You know, as a striker, you take pride in goals, and not many people have scored a hat. A lot of people have scored for their country, but many people haven't scored a hat-trick for their country. And that's something that, you know, I can take pride in. And, you know, the most recent hat-tricks for the Socceroos was obviously Mila Jedinak and Timmy. And those are the guys that, you know, have passed on a legacy to us boys. And it's a nice feeling to have done that with a hat-trick. And that match ball is tucked away nicely.
Was that the perfect hat-trick? Was that a left-right head from memory.
Correct.
It was, yeah.
Correct.
That doesn't go astray. And as that story will go on, Nepal will turn into Nigeria, into Argentina and Brazil. I'm sure.
Lionel Messi played that night.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the Canberra Stadium.
Nepalese Messi.
Yeah. No, but anyone that knows you, and I know you well, and this is kind of just, coming to the end of, I guess, a big part of this podcast, because like you, Jamie, I grew up playing football, and football was my life. And it was something that, circumstances didn't go my way, and within myself, it's kind of taken me away from the game. And I've learned pretty quickly that there's a whole nother side to life outside of football that I never thought I would realize this quickly. But knowing you, and anyone that does know you and probably listening to this podcast, is you're a very driven and focused guy, who's very determined and always kind of whatever goal you set in front of you, you're going to go after as hard as you can. But I just wonder, do you have a way to separate yourself from the game when you're sitting on the couch at home with your partner and your family? Are you good at that? Or is that something you...
Nah. Look, if I'm honest, mate, it's I think the more pressure that's on me, the least present I'm available. And it's probably the harshest on my missus, because if I come home from a game where I've missed a chance, mate, fucking stay away from me. Stay away from me. Because I swear to God, if she says to me, "Oh, is your cup of tea warm enough?" and I would just fucking lose my shit. And it's one of those ones where it's unfair, but I'm starting to learn, to deal with those sort of things and using different techniques. But I'm a winner, and I not hate losing, but I hate lowering my standards individually, because I'd hate nothing more than, if we lost, 1-0 on the weekend and I missed a penalty or I missed a chance, I would automatically think, fuck, my teammates are looking at me, that I was the one that didn't get it back in the game. And I always like to be the guy who's in the moment and I'm able to step up. So I'm starting to improve that and starting to understand that it's okay to miss. But when the next one comes, you just go again. And it's almost having that sort of tennis mentality where you don't have time to worry about that one. There's another one coming in 5 seconds time. And that was something that I've been trained into me recently through, Mike Conway at the Socceroos and other guys who have worked with me. So yeah, it is difficult to switch off, mate, but during the week I can more switch off than the weekend, that's for sure. But I'm definitely fully focused when it comes around to game day, for sure, man.
Yeah, that's the way you've been built. I think that's the way you'll always be built. It's been a pleasure having you on the podcast, Jamie. One of my oldest friends, still to this day, one of my closest friends, and I'm proud to see what you're doing. And I can only think you're scraping the surface of where you're going to go, mate. So looking forward to next year for Melbourne City and the Socceroos. And yeah, appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, Jakey boy. It's a long time coming, mate. And like I said, once this lockdown's over, mate, we'll have a nice steak and glass of wine and reminisce old times, mate. And we might bring up that Ange Postecoglou story. You never know. Yeah,
no, I might. If your old man's there, I might bring up the Altona Magic versus Green Gully game, which we didn't get into in this, but it's something you're
the Man United Cup. The Man United Cup. We're not talking about that one, mate.
Yeah, we'll talk about that another time. No, thanks, brother. We appreciate it, man. It was awesome having you on.
Too easy, bro. Love you, bro.
Thanks, brother. Awesome.
Ciao.